getting recognition with all the other trades. They're all a regulated body. And again, there's pluses and minuses, but is that the path to get us at the table?
There's some differences that are not happening in the plumbing world and everything else, and the electrical world. So those have to be, I mean, perhaps it's because of the liability. I mean, you could actually perish if you don't do it right. Do we have that? In a way.
Yeah, we're getting there. Depends what thing you're playing with.
No, absolutely. Look at rigging and all the commercial world that I'm, moving everybody through. You don't want to screw around in a stadium, and lots of my guys do it. They're up there.
The only one that flirts with that is interior designers, because you have a lot of certified interior designers, and then you have a ton of people walking around telling you that they're interior designers when they're really just painting pillows.
They asked me if I knew anything about power plants. I said as much as anyone I had ever met. They asked me how well I understood theoretical physics. I said I had a theoretical degree in physics. They said, welcome aboard.
On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk CEDIA's new advocacy and Resideo splits their business. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek. This is ResiWeek, episode 496, CEDIA Advocacy. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matthew Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I am pleased to be joined by two of my good friends. First, we have Mr. Jeremy Glowacki. He's the editor-in-chief over at Projector Central. How are you, sir?
Doing as well as I can on a Monday afternoon when, it feels like I didn't do enough on Friday. You know, those times when you're just like, why didn't I just do more? But you want to start the weekend. And, now you're behind the eight ball. So busy, but good. Thanks for asking. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Then we have Mr. Gary Usher. He's the VP of Marketing over at Powerhouse Alliance. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks, guys, very much for having me on the show. It's a beautiful day here in Southern California.
Excellent. It's a disgustingly hot day up here in Southern Ontario. So winter is coming. All right, let's kick this off with a story that comes to us from CE Pro. Behind CEDIA's strategy to define not just itself, but the entire industry. In a lengthy conversation with CEDIA CEO Daryl Friedman, he explains the association's evolving mission to help shape the role of integrators in the in the eyes of designers, architects, builders, and the public at large. I'm not going to read through this entire thing. It is a great story, and I encourage you all to go read it. But they talk about a bunch of kind of key points, specifically trying to rebadge CEDIA as the education and separate it from the trade show, which, gosh, that's been ongoing since I was involved with CEDIA directly on the board, as well as building legitimacy through labor recognition for workforce and legitimacy with trade partners, which is a huge factor there. Jeremy, let me start with you on this. I'm going to call this maybe kind of not a rebrand, not a rebadging, maybe a reintroduction and a recentering of just who CEDIA actually is and who its members are, and how they relate to the market in general. How steep is this hill for Daryl and the whole team there, and politely the entire industry, to articulate who we are and what our value is to everyone involved?
Yeah, in a word, it is. It's a difficult climb. I think it is a steep climb. I think CEDIA has always been challenged with visibility and recognition and misinterpretation of who they are. Forever, it was they're the trade show, not the trade association, first and foremost. Education's always been a part of it, but that was intertwined with CEDIA Expo, maybe ISE, but we see them sell the trade show Expo, and people still don't quite understand the difference there. And they complain about, I guess the ones in the know complain about Emerald owning the expo and not really liking the way that's going, but I don't necessarily always agree that it's Emerald that's the problem. Sometimes it's just the changing dynamics of conventions and trade shows and that type of thing. And the education component has been up and down over the years for CEDIA. I think it's an essential part of what they do, but how people get their training now has changed. So you go manufacturer direct. You've always had manufacturer training, but you now have, I think, even more essential manufacturer training. Maybe it's through distributors, maybe it's through reps. There's all different ways of getting trained on products, and now trending types of categories like getting into the lighting category or worrying about power management, alternative sources of power and managing all of that, charging EVs and all of that. I could see where CEDIA could play a leadership role. You've got buying groups doing that. You've got other entities getting involved in those trainings, even the manufacturers. So it's a tough one to be the end all be all leader in that. I think if they have misstep, and they did over the years, you are playing from behind already and trying to get that leadership back. So the advocacy thing has never changed. I feel like that's always been strong for them, but I don't think it's respected by the membership or people who don't want to be members of CEDIA. They don't understand the work that goes on, no matter how much they promote it, that there are challenges to low voltage installation, state by state. There's lack of recognition as a workforce, as a category classification with the federal government, and then the workforce development and just getting employees and understanding that this is a trade, and that as a young person coming out of high school, you may want to consider this as a trade, not go become an electrical contractor or an IT professional, but become an integrator. But I think there's just it requires a lot of marketing dollars and big investment to get the word out about the industry. And you do it through those trade groups. You do it through the builders and architects and the designers. You kind of build it grassroots like that.
Yeah.
But I still think they're lost in that mix a lot of times. And from a customer standpoint, I still think word of mouth seems to be the biggest thing. Like if someone's worked with an integrator and their friend or neighbor says, "Hey, how did you get that cool thing done?" Or "How did you set up your security system?" They find out they used a guy and they used that person. And that's just that sort of word of mouth thing has been the biggest business development part of our industry for so long. And I feel like we haven't gotten past that, and it needs to have a bigger presence. And I don't know how that happens other than big marketing dollars by the industry to get the word out, or just continue the advocacy that they're doing and building up those grassroots connections like they are. It's a tough one.
Yeah, it definitely is a tough hill to climb. Gary, this is the one that has kind of plagued me in my entire career in this industry, is trying to gain recognition as an equal with trade partners. Again, whether that's the plumbers, the electricians, the home builders, the architects, the designers, literally anyone in the building industry, for whatever reason, does not see our channel as an equal partner. Obviously, there's exceptions to that, but per the norm, as Jeremy kind of alluded to, they know a guy that does something and can hang a TV, right? Is that pie in the sky? Is that even obtainable to become a partner or equal standing?
No, it's not. And I think that Jeremy, great points all around. And talking about that mountain in particular is kind of where we're at. Listen, I read that this article, and you're right, Matthew. It's a great article. Everybody should read it because it's got the hallmarks. It's framed properly. It's a mission statement.
Mm-hmm.
but the mission statement's been there for the last 15 years. So that has never changed. Jeremy, you alluded to a couple of the really difficult parts. You mentioned, like a greater marketing endeavor to try to poke that thing through the head of the cloud. Some of what's included in that mission statement. Matthew, you're talking about just dressing us up better as integrators. We're always going to be kind of I want to say, the lower educated kind of thing in this whole thing, the less regulated, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera. But we are the guys, and I train like this. We are the guys who have cigars with the homeowner at the end and become part of their family barbecue scenario. It's just there's a friendship there that cannot be argued with. Along with Matthew, when you're talking about that equality, the money's there. What we have been able to do now in California, for instance, there was a big shift in certification and or hourly accruement that led to a lot of our guys getting into the security and surveillance industry, and it paid off. Texas followed suit. So that who goes around the country and shares that success story through CEDIA's medium? I don't know if that's really in that mission statement either. What's in that mission statement is still back to grassroots. Why should we go to the show now, Jeremy? The emerald word there is supremely difficult. I believe 100% in educating, going to Denver or San Diego or Indy, and bringing your crew, seeing what's out there. That whole process is it's not even an American look at what happened overseas with the in what was it, Madrid, was great. Everybody's clamoring on board to go and see and focus at the same time. We all want a governing body that works in their favor. Do they step up and say we are the governing party of many different facets and in ever-changing technologies as well? Because what you mentioned was shades and technologies overall, they have to try to attract through a generalized topic, but then they have to determine that you go through this class, you can now put this logo on your truck and you're worth more. That's
Yeah.
always hard. Now, what do I do for a living? I train. I'm in marketing for the Powerhouse Alliance, 9 fantastic independent distributors across the country. We find holes. We find ways to help that guy get more and logoize and commercialize his 3 and 4 man operation. So I'm able to tell a group of people in any one of these cities, this is what you need to know. This is when you need to know it by, because the product is in the shelves. It's on sale right now. I'm going to take you to the promised land within like 6 weeks from, a design. And we're going to just continue to, slash and burn, so to speak, in a successful way, through your jobs, through your year. And that's what kind of makes my world a lot of fun. It's that independent thing. I don't have to recreate a governing body. So I believe in CEDIA. I had done trainings over the years where I partnered with them and put rooms together with the logo up there and really kind of brought people through and said, hey, can, finalizing this class is going to, what I said, enable you for more money and respect what this thing is. It's a little all over the place. When you go to an Infocom, which we did just a few months ago, that's a tight show, guys. That is a well manicured scenario, and it shows. And the partnership between Avexia and Infocom is positive. That's what's not working against CEDIA right now. So the mission statement going forward is great, but they've got some inner work to do. And there's been a whole lot of, listen, we are getting nickeled and dimed on those event floors like you would not believe. It's
Mm-hmm.
the cost is huge to be able to put on a show for the integrators to come have dinner in Denver, have some fun, show their lower techs, show them the promised land, get them excited about the process. It still does work, but I'm looking in 3 weeks of having 20-25% less attendance. Fact. Okay, regardless of the mission statement, that'll kind of get us there. But in 3 weeks, anybody listening to this program, I want you to go. I want you to come to our booth. I want you to see Jeremy's layout. There's projector trainings and there's things that you're going to have within your own booth. It's still a positive scenario. It's more expensive. It's harder to do. And being in the same city for 6 years, 7 years, that doesn't work to anybody's advantage. You got to move that thing around. So they're up against a big hill. I'm an advocate for it. I'm going to continue to get in where I can, educate where I can, promote independent distribution, and help do the work. It's our industry, guys. So I'm passionate about all of it working.
Let me ask you guys this just before we move on, because Gary, you brought up something that I have I bring up every now and again because it's fun. Getting recognition with all the other trades. They're all a regulated body. Is that the path? And again, there's pluses and minuses, but is that the path to get us at the table?
I would say that could be a part of it, to be more legitimized. And I know that they've been trying to do that with the classification as a trade.
Yeah, but it's not there, man.
What are your other paths to get there is the question. It's a hard answer.
You gotta be the electrical world. You have to be the plumbing world. You have to be the architectural world. The only one that flirts with that is interior designers, because you have a lot of certified interior designers, and then you have a ton of people walking around telling you that they're interior designers when they're really just painting pillows. I think if we want to be real, and I'll get a lot of hate for this, but if we want to be real, we have to be a government regulated trade if we want to sit at the big boy table.
Well, CEDIA tried to be, pretty strict about certification years ago, right? And it was the big debate of, walling it off or being inclusive, and, people just doing it. The trunk slammer word was being thrown around a lot back then. But when, you're charging for it and there's pushback, and there's all those arguments, and I think they lost some momentum on that. I think they were on the right track at one point, trying to do that, trying to make it have some validation within, but that was within the industry. That wasn't having to do with anyone outside. It was basically like, it was self-governing for it. Self-governing. Yeah. So the next step of making it bigger than that, I don't know what that it would entail. What the other groups are doing that's different, that's not an internal self-governing scenario also. If it's just more respected because people know about it, what they're doing, and they don't know our industry, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see that coming to fruition. I see CEDIA existing at a 40-30% market awareness going forward. As much as I said, I'm an advocate of leader of the pack and them going to Washington and kind of forging for us. But in this climate right now of lessening regulations and insurance, it's just the product itself, guys, is built to get you so close to the consumer.
Yeah.
Is that going to continue to change and be far apart? Like, yeah, you got to get an AV guy for that. No, we like that flirtation for them to almost want to do it, but then I want help with this. And at that moment, we're able to negotiate a price, establish a relationship, and do what a house cleaner is going to do. I mean, I got it. I like the family. I could be here every day of the week. It's just a relationship built. So there's some differences that are not happening in the plumbing world and everything else, and the electrical world. So those have to be, I mean, perhaps it's because of the liability. I mean, you could actually perish if you don't do it right. Do we have that? In a way.
Yeah, we're getting there. Depends what thing you're playing with.
No, absolutely. Look at rigging and all the commercial world that I'm, moving everybody through. You don't want to screw around in a stadium, and lots of my guys do it. They're up there. Mm-hmm. So and doing some amazing work. So, are we going to back, the independent world, as I've seen in so music, that people love that. People love your take. This is the industry that actually can reshape itself. Some of those other things aren't going to be able to. It's going to be old school forever, and maybe do so.
No, that's a great point. All right, let's change topics for a second. This comes to us from Residential Tech Today. Resideo plans to split off ADI and create two independent companies. A little over a year ago, after the Snap One acquisition, Resideo announced plans to roll in its ADI business into its complete Resideo business, and they are now going to split that and have a Resideo product and solutions business that will operate as Resideo, and ADI will go back to being an independent public company with its distribution side. Gary, I want to start with you on this. I know you've been in that space a little bit. With you can allude to how much of that you want to. What does this mean? I think a lot of us were kind of shocked when this initially happened, and they partnered and then rolled up as one. I have a feeling there's a lot of people that are going to be very surprised that they're now splitting back into independent companies. What does this do to the market and to kind of really the shape of the industry?
To me, it's almost like when you go through bankruptcy and you're ready to renegotiate, and there's a reset that's part of this. I'm not at all surprised, nor is anybody in my world. Not to say that you didn't read it from that perspective. I did. I worked for Snap. There was some great ideas going on when Snap was buying up the independents across the country,
Mm-hmm.
building 50 locations in the right areas. There was a positive spin on that because there was money. It was funded. We weren't afraid of Wall Street in that context because we put the right leadership involved, guys who understood our world. I was able to train on the floor, coast to coast. It was a good ride. What was surprising was it just all of a sudden dried up so fast. Now, part of our world, when we see, it's not a cascade of results, and when those are posted, that we go, up. I guess it wasn't successful for a number of different reasons that happened. So when it went up for sale and it was bought, and ADI was part of that thing. In our world, in our integration world, that ADI was the one front that we could compare ourselves to from Snap to ADI, meaning
Mm-hmm.
Snap had a whole fresher approach, a great mix of product, independent vendors as well as homegrown stuff that was catching fire, and it was getting people on the carousel in a good way. So when I say compared to ADI never really looked great in our space. It was security orientated. They tried to bring in AV stuff just on default, to fix some invoices at the end of the day. So they never really appropriated themselves. So when now that ADI is going to take this front, they've got a whole lot of work to do. And I said, going back to the negotiating table with some major vendors, I mean, they're going to have to go, hey, we're going to have to take some steps from the acquisition and some of the stuff that works and apply it to ADI for us to be relevant going forward in the integration world. They have the advantage of listening to the community and saying, I know I want to take on these products. I have to train. I have to revamp these stores. I have to do merchandising that these guys are used to looking at. So they're going to have an opportunity, and that is what's going to be promised to Wall Street. So if the numbers look good and it's promised, otherwise, like we had said earlier before we went on air, that could just be a whole renegotiation for them to piece off things. So
Yeah.
it's dangerous. It's not attractive in a lot of ways. We just want good distribution, especially from a national footprint, so to speak. Go to these other stores. I mean, look, think about, the real labor that goes into this is systems identifying as systems left and right on each side of the coast, the SKUs, the prices. It's just this whole huge mess. When it comes back down to the guy going in there, I want to buy a projector. I need two speakers. Can I go here? Can I go there? That's limiting their choices. A lot of our snowbirds and a lot of what our guys go through, we want national presence, so to speak, but the Wall Street whole thing, oh my God, it's just, like I said, I had confidence in it. At this point right now, let's see where they land. But all day long from independent distribution, I have my way. I'm going to run some plays this next 8 months. They're going to show the industry that I'm bringing back guys who are interested in independent vendors, not necessarily the Watt boxes and the homegrown stuff that everybody kind of got back on the wheel, because you know what, there's no more money for reappropriation for upgrades on any of that stuff, so it's going to sit kind of dormant, and as that stuff
Mm-hmm.
starts to fall, people are going to be looking to relink on different items, so there's greater opportunity out there. That's how I see
Yeah.
that anyway. But yeah, I'm intimately involved in, and people are a little worried out there. So the sales force again is in a kind of chilly climate, and I don't like to see that as well. But they're trying.
Yeah. That's a great point. Jeremy, is this going to foster innovation on the Resideo side? kind of getting back to the core of what Resideo was, a couple rebrands ago, but where they were so heavily product focused and sensor focused and literally had that core business before they got so caught up in distribution.
Yeah, I don't know as much about their side of it, to be honest with you. So it would seem that would help them refocus. From the ADI Snap side, looking at it from a little bit further back, my point would be just the lack of personalization with these big entities in our industry, which we just got through talking about how grassroots our industry is, and you start having these larger and larger conglomerates kind of coming along, and it's one thing to see the size of the old Snap AV, Snap One, which was becoming bigger and bigger, but still, relatively speaking, relatable people in product management roles, and it is accessible. And then these big entities, the public companies, they seem to kind of lose touch with the guys on the ground, and those relationships kind of fall by the wayside. Now, whether we see a change in terms of product development on the Resideo side, that could be the case. I don't know. It would. Obviously, product innovation is always a good thing to see, and new ideas. But I'm not exactly sure on that, to be honest with you.
All right. Well, we'll have to watch that and see what happens. All right. We are going to leave it there. Thank you both so much for joining us today. Jeremy, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Projector Central, where can they do that?
Yeah, projectorcentral.com. Look at our nice long reviews on commercial and residential products, projectors, and we launched LED Wall Central as well to give some education there. So check that out. And we have a podcast as well for Projector Central where I interview our reviewers, and we kind of do a little bit more personalized conversations about their experience with these cool projectors that are, anywhere from lifestyle, consumer level to all the way up to like the big Christie commercial projectors that you see out there, and amazing installations. So it's a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you for being here. Gary, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Powerhouse Alliance, where can they do that?
Right at the powerhousealliance.com, obviously, but we were kind of in shadow. Our main headliners are our distributors, obviously. That's Mountain West, and that's UI Supply, and that's Pro Audio back east, and that's AV Express in Texas, and Pioneer and 21st Century. These are my champions. These are my all-stars out there, and delivering great products. We as Powerhouse Alliance always try to find the best vendors out there. We make a great packages and programs for the integrators to take advantage of. And you'll catch me bi-weekly on my podcast, which I call the Powercast, and I bring on the vendors. I do mini trainings every other week, so please hit me up there. I'm always doing it on LinkedIn. Join me. I think we've got pertinent conversation, and we're going to continue to deliver the message to the integrators directly, as well as I train all of our sales guys, man, right on the front lines. We talk every single week about what's pertinent and how to do it and how to go about it, utilizing everybody's victory stories and otherwise. So rolling into CEDIA, we look forward to seeing everybody out there. Matthew, thank you so much for having me on the show. Jeremy, good talking to you too.
No problem. Thank you for being here. Thank you as well for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on most of the socials. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek,
the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.